When you think of the great ancient superpowers, a few names probably pop into your head. Rome, with its globe-spanning empire, Persia, the sophisticated heart of a vast dominion, and China, a civilization that shaped Eastern history. For centuries, that's been the standard picture of global power. But what if I told you that picture is incomplete? What if I told you that back in the 3rd century, a Persian prophet named Mani listed a 4th empire right alongside them? A kingdom nestled in the highlands of Africa, a powerhouse built on faith and gold that controlled a critical artery of world trade. This is a kingdom whose rulers minted their own gold coins, a declaration of power and stability that echoed from the markets of India to the halls of Rome. A kingdom that erected monolithic stone obelisks so massive, so ambitious, that they remain some of the largest single stone structures ever attempted. A kingdom that embraced Christianity as its state religion long before most of Europe, becoming a beacon of faith on the African continent. This is the story of Aksum, a major power that stood among the giants of antiquity. And this is the story of how it was almost completely forgotten. To find Aksum, we have to travel to the highlands of what is now northern Ethiopia and Eritrea. It's a land of dramatic plateaus and fertile valleys, perched at a crossroads of continents and cultures. Long before Aksum rose to prominence around the 1st century CE, the region was home to a civilization known as Damt. For a long time, historians thought Aksum was basically a colony founded by people from southern Arabia, particularly the Sabaeans of modern-day Yemen. The evidence seemed pretty convincing. Early Aksumite art, architecture, and religion showed clear South Arabian influences. But this version of the story, much like the broader history of Aksum itself, was missing a few key chapters. Modern archaeology paints a far more complex and interesting picture. Aksum wasn't a colony, it was a synthesis. It was a unique cultural identity forged from the fusion of local peoples who had lived in the Ethiopian highlands for millennia and migrants from Arabia. It was a distinctly African civilization that absorbed foreign influences without losing its own soul. One of the most powerful symbols of this unique identity is also a testament to their ingenuity: the Ge'ez script. Evolving from earlier South Arabian scripts, the Aksumites developed one of Africa's most significant indigenous writing systems, an elegant script that, unlike its predecessors, evolved to incorporate vowels. This wasn't just a tool for merchants, it was the foundation of a rich literary tradition. And this script isn't just a relic, it is a living legacy, still used today in the liturgy of the Ethiopian and Eritrean Orthodox churches, connecting millions of people to their ancient past. The society that emerged from this blend was cosmopolitan and outward-looking. The early historical record is sparse, but the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, a 1st century Greek mariner's guide, gives us one of our first real glimpses. It speaks of a king named Zoskales, ruling a realm rich in ivory and tortoise shells, a kingdom already playing a key role in the trade between Rome and India. Even in these early days, the seeds of empire were sown. The Aksumites weren't just participating in global trade, they were positioning themselves to control it. Their kings weren't just local chiefs, they adopted the title Negusa Nagast, or King of Kings, ruling a confederacy of smaller kingdoms. This was a clear sign of ambition, a signal that this highland kingdom was looking beyond its mountainous borders toward a destiny that would soon stun the ancient world. The engine of Aksum's impressive rise was its geography. The kingdom was perfectly positioned to dominate one of the most important economic arteries of the ancient world, the Red Sea maritime route connecting the Roman Empire with the riches of India and beyond. Aksum's control of this geographic choke point was the key to unlocking a golden age of wealth and influence. At the heart of this commercial empire was the port city of Adulis on the Eritrean coast. Picture a bustling, cosmopolitan hub, a riot of sounds, sights, and smells. Here, Roman galleys would anchor alongside Arabian dhows and Indian vessels. Merchants from Egypt, Persia, and Syria mingled in the markets, haggling in Greek, Ge'ez, and a dozen other tongues. Through Adulis, Aksum controlled the flow of Africa's most coveted luxury goods. The most important was ivory. Vast quantities of elephant tusks from the interior were funneled through Aksumite networks to the port. Aksum became a major supplier for the insatiable Roman demand for decorative furniture, jewelry, and carvings. But it didn't stop there. Gold, fragrant frankincense and myrrh, emeralds, and rhinoceros horns flowed out of Africa through Adulis, while silk, spices, wine, and olive oil flowed in. Aksum became the indispensable middleman, the gatekeeper of global commerce. Aksum's rulers weren't just sitting back and collecting goods. They were shrewd economic managers. They levied tariffs on everything passing through their ports, filling the state's coffers to fund their immense ambitions. This wealth was then projected to the world in the clearest statement of power an ancient state could make. They minted their own coins. Around 270 CE, under a king named Endybis, Aksum began issuing its own currency in gold, silver, and bronze. This was a huge deal. Aksum was the first sub-Saharan African civilization to mint its own coins and one of a very select group of powers at the time, alongside giants like Rome and Persia, to issue gold coinage. Minting gold was a declaration of sovereignty and economic stability. Aksumite gold coins were struck to a weight standard comparable to Roman currency, making them easy to use in international markets. Their inscriptions were often in Greek, the international language of trade, a clear sign these coins were meant for a worldwide audience. An Aksumite gold coin was a piece of African power that could be spent in a marketplace in Alexandria, a port in Arabia, or a trading post in India. Archaeologists have found these coins scattered across the ancient world, a tangible map of Aksum's vast economic reach. This economic might translated directly into political and military power. Aksum was a formidable force, projecting its authority across the Red Sea to the shores of southern Arabia. At times, it controlled territory on both sides of the Red Sea. The Roman Empire couldn't ignore this rising African power. Roman emperors wrote diplomatic letters to the kings of Aksum, addressing them not as subjects but as fellow rulers. The Persian prophet Mani, surveying the geopolitical landscape of the 3rd century, recognized this reality. He listed the 4 great powers of his time: Persia, Rome, China, and Aksum. In an era dominated by familiar giants, a new power had announced its arrival, not with the tramp of legions, but with the gleam of gold and the mastery of the seas. At the height of its power, Aksum made a decision that would change its identity forever. In the mid-4th century, the kingdom of Aksum officially adopted Christianity as its state religion. This monumental shift made Aksum one of the very first Christian states in the world, following Armenia. The story of this conversion is a dramatic tale. It centers on a young Syrian Christian named Frumentius. According to tradition, Frumentius and his brother were the sole survivors of an incident on the Red Sea and were brought to the Aksumite court. Their intelligence impressed the king, and Frumentius, a devout Christian, became a tutor to the young crown prince, Ezana. When the old king died, the queen asked Frumentius to stay and help guide her son. Over the years, Frumentius nurtured the young prince's interest in Christianity. Once Ezana took the throne in the early to mid-4th century, he was ready to embrace the new religion. He sent Frumentius to Alexandria, the center of Christian authority in Africa, to request a bishop for Aksum. The patriarch, Athanasius, decided no one was better for the job than the man who had planted the seeds of faith himself. He consecrated Frumentius as the first bishop of Aksum, giving him the name Abba Salama, or Father of Peace. Upon his return, King Ezana declared Christianity the official religion of his empire. The proof isn't just in later chronicles, it's stamped in solid gold. Before his conversion, Ezana's coins featured a pagan crescent and disc symbol. After his conversion, he replaced it with the Christian cross. It was among the earliest uses of the cross on any coinage in the world. Every merchant who held an Aksumite coin, from India to the Mediterranean, would now see the symbol of Aksum's new faith. Ezana's conversion was both an act of faith and a brilliant geopolitical move. By embracing Christianity, Aksum forged a powerful religious and diplomatic bond with the Roman Empire, which was also becoming a Christian state under Emperor Constantine. They were now partners in faith, 2 Christian empires anchoring a trade network that was also a network of shared belief. This elevated Aksum's standing on the world stage. At first, the faith was likely confined to the royal court and city elites. But Christianity began to spread more widely, a process represented in Ethiopian tradition by the arrival of missionaries known as the 9 Saints in the late 5th century. Fleeing persecution after the Council of Chalcedon, these missionaries found refuge in Aksum. They established monasteries, helped translate the Bible into Ge'ez, and laid the foundations for the deep-rooted faith that would come to define the highlands. This conversion birthed a unique and enduring form of Christianity. Ethiopian Orthodoxy developed its own distinct traditions and liturgy. It was a faith that would outlast the Aksumite Empire itself. a spiritual legacy that continues to thrive today. Aksum hadn't just adopted a religion, it had woven it into its very soul. Section 4. A kingdom of stone and faith. Aksum's power wasn't just shown in gold coins and trade. The empire proclaimed its greatness in stone, creating monumental works of architecture that still inspire awe today. The most iconic symbols of Aksum's might are the giant monolithic stelae, or obelisks, that dominate the landscape of the ancient capital. These aren't crude stone markers. They are masterpieces of engineering carved from single blocks of granite-like rock quarried miles away. Imagine thousands of workers, using nothing but manpower and ropes, dragging these colossal stones, some weighing over 500 tons, across rugged terrain. It was an organizational feat on par with building the pyramids. Once at the site, these monoliths were erected as funerary markers for Aksum's rulers, towering over their tombs. The largest of them, the Great Stelae, stood at a staggering 33 meters, 108 feet, and weighed an estimated 520 tons. Had it remained standing, it would have been one of the largest single stone structures ever erected by humanity, but it likely collapsed while being put up, an event that must have seemed like a terrible omen. Even the stelae still standing are breathtaking. The 24-meter-tall obelisk of Aksum, for instance, is intricately carved to look like a 13-story building. It has false doors and windows, complete with details like stone door handles. These stelae are visions of elite life, frozen in granite for eternity. The construction of these monuments stopped after the kingdom converted to Christianity, as the focus of monumental building shifted from tombs to churches. Aksum was also a place of tolerance. This reputation was tested in the early 7th century. In Mecca, the Prophet Muhammad and his early followers faced intense persecution. Fearing for their safety, Muhammad advised a group of them, including his own daughter, to seek refuge across the sea. The destination he chose wasn't Persia or Rome, but the Christian kingdom of Aksum. This event, known as the First Hijra, or migration, is a testament to Aksum's reputation for justice. The Aksumite king, the Negus, welcomed the Muslim refugees and refused to extradite them. According to Islamic tradition, this act of kindness earned Aksum a special status, with the Prophet Muhammad later said to have declared that Abyssinia, Ethiopia, should be left in peace. This moment cemented Aksum's role not just as a Christian kingdom, but as a sanctuary that played a protective part in the earliest days of Islam. This cosmopolitanism was the empire's strength. But even as Aksum stood at its zenith, a multicultural, multi-religious power, a kingdom of stone and faith, the world around it was changing. The very forces that had propelled its rise would soon conspire to bring about its long, slow decline. Section 5. The long decline, a perfect storm. No empire lasts forever, but Aksum didn't fall in a single fiery conquest. Its decline was a slow, grinding process, a perfect storm of crises that unraveled the foundations of its power over several centuries. The first and most decisive blow was the loss of the Red Sea. For centuries, Aksum's prosperity was tied to its control over maritime trade. The rise of Islam in the 7th century and the Arab conquests completely reordered the map. The vital Red Sea corridor came under the control of the new Islamic caliphates. The port of Adulis, the heart of Aksum's commercial empire, was attacked and eventually declined. This was catastrophic. Aksum was gradually cut off from its primary source of wealth and its connection to the wider world. The trade routes that had carried ivory and gold out and silk and spices in were now controlled by rival powers. The minting of Aksum's iconic gold coins, the ultimate symbol of its international standing, ceased in the early 7th century. The flow of wealth that had funded monumental building and a powerful military slowed to a trickle and then stopped. As its window to the world closed, Aksum was forced to turn inward. The kingdom's political center retreated from the coast, moving deeper into the more defensible, but less fertile, Ethiopian highlands. This shift coincided with a second crisis: environmental degradation. Centuries of intensive farming and deforestation began to take their toll. Archaeological evidence shows signs of severe soil erosion and reduced agricultural output. A kingdom already weakened by economic isolation now faced the threat of resource depletion at home. These pressures were compounded by other disasters. The plague of Justinian, a devastating pandemic that ravaged the Mediterranean in the mid-6th century, may have spread to Aksum through its trade networks, further weakening the state. Expensive military campaigns to control Yemen in the 6th century had also drained the treasury. Internal political fragmentation followed. Without the wealth from international trade to hold the empire together, central authority began to crumble. Ethiopian traditions speak of a violent end in the 10th century at the hands of a destructive queen known as Gudit or Judith. While the historical accuracy of this specific account is debated, it likely reflects a period of intense internal conflict and the final collapse of the old Aksumite state. The empire unraveled, power shifted southward to new dynasties, like the Zagwe, who would later carve the incredible rock-hewn churches of Lalibela. The city of Aksum itself, once a bustling metropolis, shrank into a provincial town. For the outside world, it slowly disappeared from memory. The story of Aksum is a powerful reminder that history is filled with forgotten chapters that don't fit the neat narratives we're often taught. Their achievements in trade, architecture, and faith were equal to any of their more famous contemporaries. So, what other forgotten empires or hidden histories do you think deserve to be brought into the light? Let us know in the comments. So why was Aksum forgotten? How could a power, once counted among the 4 greatest on Earth, fade so completely from popular history? The answer is as complex as the empire itself. The primary reason was its increasing isolation. The rise of new powers in the Red Sea region severed the link between Aksum and Christian Europe. As Europe entered the Middle Ages, Aksum retreated into its highland fortress, and memories faded. When Europeans re-engaged with Africa centuries later, it was often through the distorted lens of colonialism, unable or unwilling to imagine an ancient African kingdom that had been a Christian power, while their own ancestors were still considered barbarians by Rome. The history that was written and taught prioritized a Eurocentric narrative, and Aksum simply didn't fit. But to say Aksum disappeared is wrong. It was forgotten by the West, but it was never truly lost. Its legacy endured, vibrant and powerful in the heart of Africa. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church is a direct spiritual descendant of Aksum. The Ge'ez script, developed in the ancient kingdom, is still used in its sacred texts, preserving a literary tradition nearly 2,000 years old. Until the fall of the last emperor, Haile Selassie, in 1974, Ethiopian royalty claimed direct descent from Aksum's kings. And of course, the stones remain. The magnificent stelae still stand sentinel over the tombs of long-dead kings, silent witnesses to a forgotten glory. The ruins of palaces and ancient churches are still being unearthed, each discovery adding a new page to a story we are only just beginning to rediscover. Aksum's story challenges our perception of ancient history. It forces us to look at the world map differently, to see it not as a story of a few dominant civilizations, but as a complex web of interconnected powers. It proves that a great African empire, built on gold, faith, and astonishing ingenuity, was not just a regional player, but a major force that shaped its world. Aksum wasn't a footnote to history. It was a headline, one that was torn out and cast aside. It's time we finally read it.